Good morning, all. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Sunil Gupta. I'm the Chief Information Technology Officer at CTBTO, and it is my immense pleasure to welcome you to this session on AI. There is no doubt that technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate, and artificial intelligence is perhaps driving that change. So today, for us, we have an interesting agenda for you. We will go through how AI is transforming our lives. What are the roles that are being played in the real world? We will also look at what are some of the challenges, and then perhaps take your questions. Now let's look at the real transformative role of AI. It is no longer about automation. It is no longer about things happening by themselves. It's about systems that are intelligent, predictive, collaborative, and perhaps in future can have thinking of their own. Used wisely, AI can definitely deliver a lot of benefits for us. We know that. It can be more efficient. And if you look at where all we can use AI, definitely innovation. AI by itself is a big innovation. I talked about efficiency. There are predictions that AI alone can improve efficiency by about 35%. And that's a big number. A number of studies are now utilizing AI, and we did see them. It might be something interesting for us to know that 5% of bad drivers cause 60% of congestion. And that study has come from AI. Also, 90% of all the crashes that happen has a human element in it. But using the autonomous vehicles, up to 85% of these crashes can be avoided. And perhaps this might interest you. A study in China, which has perhaps one of the largest databases of many different situations, has found that if your cell phone battery is at 20%, there are chances that your decision-making may be impacted. And it is possible that you may perhaps not be able to concentrate that well. Isn't that interesting? But it does not end there. There is an element of growth. As much as there has been fear that AI will take our jobs, the World Economic Forum's job report has predicted, to the surprise of many, that up to 78 million more jobs will be created in next decade than reducing jobs as may be feared. But then there is an element of human empowerment, and we did see that how it can really complement and supplement everything we do. To take it all together, I have immense pleasure in welcoming our panel, Bill Wong from Infotech Group. This is a research group out of Canada, and Bill is regarded as one of the foremost thinkers and researchers in AI, and Fausto Elber, an applied AI consultant, an engineer, a co-founder of AI Builders Club in Netherlands. In fact, Ask Emilia is an application that Fausto and his team has created. So I welcome on floor Bill and Fausto, and then we can have our panel discussions. Please. So we start with, what are practical applications of AI? And let me ask Bill. Bill, in your research and in your opinion, how is this transformation happening practically?
Testing. The applications that are most driven by AI today. So during this talk, we'll share some of the research that's going to be published shortly about some of the trends that we're seeing for 2026. But basically today, the firms that we talk to, as you pointed out, Sunil, in your earlier chart, cost cutting, improving effectiveness is probably the primary driver. But there are other things as well. The customer experience, the user experience is important, growth initiatives, driving innovation, reducing time to market. And for many organizations, especially in the public sector, risk mitigation. Can we reduce risk using AI?
Thank you, Bill. And to Fausto, in your opinion, and you have developed this wonderful application for us, what are some of the practical applications that not only us, but the coming generation can take from this evolution and a revolution? And perhaps you can also explain, what is artificial intelligence?
That's the million-dollar question, because actually, as the saying goes, when AI is applied, then it's just software. But I think that the most important thing is that AI acts as a translator between human intent and between languages, and that makes it very different than earlier technologies that were essentially doing what we were telling them to do. And real AI has a aspect of non-determinism in it. You cannot possibly know what an AI is going to do exactly, and that makes it both fascinating and a little scary.
Thank you. Now let's look at how this revolution is happening. You probably have heard about ChatGPT. That was perhaps the beginning. Then there's a term called AI agents. That was the second step. And now we are at a point where we have what we call as agentic AI. And Bill, can you explain to us, what is agentic AI? What does that incorporate?
So when generative AI was introduced late in 2022, it was like an earthquake. Everybody started to jump in. And none of the vendors, software vendors out there, they were all kind of poking at it, what is this? And then within a year and a half, everybody is talking about it. You can't talk to anybody in a senior position who isn't getting flooded with emails from vendors who are saying, you must look at my new product because it's AI enabled. So there's a lot of hype with generative AI. We can talk about that later. But the next generation we're seeing is agentic AI. And if you thought the hype was big on generative AI, the hype on agentic AI is just even greater. Everybody, all the vendors who are saying, we've got these great generative AI capabilities are now saying this as well for agentic AI. And so basically, underneath the covers, it is the same kind of technologies. It is an AI model. Most of them are using the latest models, the O series from OpenAI, Gemini, latest release, Anthropic's latest release. And what it introduces is, we have a slide here. Okay. It introduces this AI models' reasoning capabilities. With generative AI, what happens is you give the system a prompt, you get a response back. Very simple interaction here. But with agentic AI, what happens is it's generative AI, but it's married to a workflow. So if you ask it a question like, should I build a solar farm in the UK? Is this financially viable? That simple prompt, agentic AI will go, okay, let me research this. And it'll go out and find what are electricity rates, what are viable firms in the energy sector, how profitable it is, and it'll send out a slew of agents to do all this work. And eventually it'll come back, probably produce a 10, 15-page report and say, okay, the net present value of producing a solar farm in the UK is negative. It's not financially viable. However, if you introduce legislation that provides, let's say, incentives, if you lower or find a way to lower the electricity rates, we can push that to a positive net revenue stream. So it anticipates almost what you're going to do and thinks ahead. It's an adaptive system. So these new AI models have reasoning capabilities. And so you're going to hear terms like chain of thought, like can you describe all the steps that you're taking? Most of the models today are not that good there, but the newer ones are. And this thing, what we call mixture of experts. So today with the models, if you send it a prompt, all the neurons of the neural network are firing. Everything is being used to process that prompt. Not very efficient, and that's why you hear 10 to 12 to 20-fold more power requirements for generative AI than a simple Google search. But with agentic AI, a mixture of experts, you send it a prompt, and it'll send it to just a portion of the neural network, just like the human brain. You don't need the human brain to the entire neural network to figure out how do I cross the street. Just a single portion of the brain does that, and that's what the mixture of experts does. And we actually have DeepSeek to thank for that. If everybody remembers in January when the stock market tanked, it was because DeepSeek was introduced and said, hey, we can do what OpenAI can do, but at 27 times less the cost. That caused everybody to wonder, are we overpaying for models? So,
Yep. Okay, let's move on. And I think you covered some aspects of agentic AI architectural components as well. Perhaps let's look at some of the design patterns very quickly in a nutshell, if you may.
yeah, these are some of the more important design patterns and kind of the foundation what we see in the future as exponential organizations, where you implement something and you're going to get drastic improvements, not just linear. So reflection, if you use ChatGPT today, sometimes it'll say, I'm thinking. And what it's doing is evaluating multiple options and trying to give you the best answer. Where before you send a prompt and you get a knee-jerk reaction, here's my response. What's exciting about agentic AI is it can call tools. So you give it a prompt, and it might want to do a Google search to make sure what it selected is the best choice. So very exciting there. And then the tough part, the last one, is how do you orchestrate all this?
Yeah,
how do you make them work
absolutely. And that's where we have Fausto. Fausto, explain to us, how has this adaptation changing?
Well, it's changing the world in many ways, but I want to touch upon coding. So AI in the application layer, as we'd say, like we're working with agents, we supply these agents with tools, but it still requires a lot of coding. Now, traditionally, coding, when we go back to the history of computer science and coding, it started with binary, but it turned out that even very smart people are really bad at decoding binary, and it's just very inefficient. So we came up with syntax, programming languages, all in order to build applications. So the humans had to climb the ladder upward, so to say. So what we see now, LLMs, large language models, foundation models, are not just another layer on that already existing stack of tools that we had to, as you will, manipulate the digital world. They are the inverse bridge because they travel the other way. They decode human intent. You can have a conversation with an AI agent, and it will, it will decode intent. So it's up to you to make very clear what it is that you want. And then they will translate that to the necessary code, to the syntax, and then with that do the machine manipulation. So that makes it very different. It makes it accessible to build applications for a much more larger group of people.
Absolutely, and you may be able to interact with Festsaal. I can almost guarantee that everybody in this hall can program from simple applications to very complex applications just by saying, this is what I want, and this is what I want to do, and that's also coming through AI. So that's the wonder that we need to capture for our growth, for our efficiency. Now let's look at some of the implementations and scaling as it is happening in the world right now. But before any implementation, we got to have certain principles, certain values by which we must abide by. So Bill, quickly, how are these AI principles being applied? Because at the moment, there is virtually no governance. How are they being applied?
Yeah, so I get involved in helping companies develop AI strategy and AI governance. And I usually advise them the most important thing to try to put down on paper is what are your guiding principles going forward? Now, 6 of these, the ones on the left and right, are typically the ones you want for any AI application you build or buy. You want to be somewhat accurate, a human in the loop, free of bias as possible, somewhat explainable, interpretable, ensure data privacy, safe and secure. What new ones we're starting to see from organizations is sustainability is being called out and say, hey, we just don't want to use compute resources like air. We want to be conscious. So it's good to see that that's emerging. And the last one, contestability of the UK, giving citizens a way to contest what AI models will do in case they're harmed by them. This is a preview of some of the research we're going to be releasing soon. And again, as I mentioned before, folks who are using agentic AI, just like generative AI, are going to use it to drive operational efficiency, improve the user experience, support growth initiatives, innovation, and in that kind of order.
Okay, maybe Festsaal, you can tell us about the early adoptions that are happening. We know about Copilot. We perhaps are also seeing some other tools that are being used.
Yeah, so this is a mix from the big tech vendors. OpenAI did not have their product when we did this survey, but we're certainly going to see adoption from them. There's a lot of great open source solutions as well. And again, this is all to do agentic AI applications.
Yeah, no, that actually brings up a very interesting point, because I always hear everyone saying like, yeah, human in the loop, accountability, it needs to be responsible AI. But for me, the whole essence of AI, like we use generative AI, is that it does make decisions for you and executes them on a level of speed that is absolutely humanly impossible. So, and you refer to DeepSeek, the GRPR Group Relative Policy Optimization algorithm that they use to optimize their models in a very efficient way. Now, that is a great example because the success of AI and the future of AI will be, in my opinion, defined by the outcomes. We will look at outcomes. Do we like the outcomes? Then please, more of that. And within that process, I can guarantee you that we will lose oversight of how it is happening. I think we've already lost that. Is that a bad thing? That's another discussion. But the future
Absolutely.
will be defined by the outcomes.
Yep. To give you an idea about the potential that exists, the human brain has, can you guess? 100 trillion. Let me repeat that number for you. 100 trillion synapses, as they're called, or connections that it can make. The fastest chip at the moment that's come out in the market is only up to 4 trillion possible connections. So you can kind of fathom the scale at which AI can go. So the future looks perhaps, if not daunting, definitely very exciting. Now looking at the adoption, and I think Bill talked about it, the adoption is definitely increasing. And any comments from your side, Bill, from your research?
Again, this survey was done earlier this year. We sent it to 1,000 organizations. Only 38 said, we're doing agentic AI. So this year's all hype. Everybody's doing POCs. Next year, that's when we expect to see an exponential adoption of this technology in production.
Great. And I think you talked about some of the founding principles. We got to make sure that what we do is responsible as an outcome that benefits definitely the mankind. So this is very interesting, and this was one of the studies and was done. And Bill, you can take us through how the positives and negatives scale up.
Yeah, just to summarize, Walmart, a leader in AI for many years. I had the opportunity to work with the CIO at Walmart in one of my past lives, and they were so far ahead with what most normal organizations were doing with analytics, and they're taking the lead with agentic AI. So this is just a few weeks old. They're going to roll out later this year persona-based agentic AI applications. So Sparky for customers, Marty for their partners. They call all their employees associates, so there'll be a super agent for them and one for developers. Now, there are risks with this new technology. The system hallucinates, and Replit, if you've worked with Replit before, this, again, just a few weeks old. At one client, it erased their production database. And the worst thing about it was when the IT folks questioned Replit about the database, it hallucinated and fabricated responses and told users, hey, everything's okay. The system's fine. Don't worry about it. The CEO was notified and acknowledged that this, it did happen, should not have happened, and that they were willing to compensate them for any losses there. So you're going to have to balance the risk and reward here.
Definitely. And this is an exciting part, which is when the robos and AI join hands. And this is not a science fiction. This is happening across the world. And to show you what it's looked like, let's have a look.
Different, isn't it? Seeing the world this way.
You seem to be adjusting well.
Okay, let's try this new strategy. They won't expect this approach. Focus. Welcome, everyone! Check out these amazing new gadgets.
This is not a science fiction. This is a reality, perhaps for the betterment of humankind. So why are we doing it? Because there's a market out there. There are at least 3 companies, Boston Dynamics, Honda, And of course, Tesla, you've heard, they are developing these humanoids. And why is that happening? It is because there is a market out there. There are predictions that it will reach up to $5 trillion. So we see here that how from a ChatGPT LLM to agentic AI, now to humanoids. Fausto, you had something to say on this.
Yeah, it's in a way humanoids. You know, it represents a very anthropomorphistic view on AI, right? We see ourselves, and we need the interface to be like ourselves to be able to understand it. And it can be, I think, very useful in education, for example, to bridge the gap between cultures, language, and to build up trust quickly. But there is, of course, things to look out for there, because it also creates a fake representation of what AI actually is. And we heard the humanists say to let people understand the complexities. It's not doing that. It's showing us a mirror.
Okay, thank you. So what are some of the ethical considerations for us? I think we heard it in the previous presentation. Definitely these principles. And Bill, tell me from your research, what are some of the questions that CIOs or CEOs ask you when it comes to applying AI and the principles?
It's funny. So I've been a tech person all my life, but just recently, since generative AI, occasionally a CEO is in the audience, and I would ask them, "What's the CEO doing here? I appreciate you being here, but why are you here?" And the top two questions I get is, the first one, they want to know, is this real? Is this just all hype? Is this like blockchain? Nothing against blockchain, but many of them got burned with that. And my response is, yes, this is real, but for the right use case. This is not the be-all, end-all, cure-all. The second most popular question I get is, okay, I buy off that there's great potential here. How can I do this as safely as possible? Because I hear a lot of firms, when they make a mistake with AI, it goes viral. Everybody talks about it. Everybody wonders, how on earth could they have done that? How did they miss that?
Yep.
But it is so easy to miss something here, and the best firms have all made mistakes.
Okay. In the interest of time, we'll move on. But there is work happening in UN itself, where there are regulations and principles and policies that are coming out. There are also work being done jointly with private sector, with public sector, with UN as well, in forming those governance models so that we apply AI in a most responsible way. And finally, we know that it's here, it's going to stay with us. But how we balance the potential challenges with the benefits is definitely up to us. And finally, you may see an AI avatar. It's called Ask Emilia. That's outside, developed, and there are 2 locations. And very quickly, we are running out of time, but Fausto, in 30 seconds, what has been the journey in creating Emilia?
Well, Emilia has been created by me solo in less than 4 weeks using generative AI and programs like Cursor, Deep Researcher programs to create. And one of the things, if you want to try this yourself, like coding with AI, is you have to be able to tell it what you want, but it's more important to be able to tell it what you not want, what you don't want, because AI is trained on patterns and it will make decisions either way. And so my prediction here for the industry application of coding with AI, because that is huge and it's going to be even way, way bigger, is that companies, software companies, software libraries will supply sort of like a drop-in SDK that is not human readable, but just for AI. This is what we as developers now still do. Like we instruct the AI what not to do. We do research. But short from now, I think that is going to happen, that companies would just supply, right, drop this into your cursor chat, and it will do the right thing when it's working with our library.
Okay. Well, this brings us to the end of our presentation. And if there are any questions, we can perhaps take only one because of the time. I'll be very happy to answer.
Nope.
Okay.
That's it?
I think we've been asked to wrap up. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your patience and your attendance. Thank you.